Trum pum 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 pum. Trum pum pum pum. Money, money, money. Must be funny. Is a rich man world. In a karaoke bar in Irkutsk, musician Yevgeny Smirnov is quickly getting to grips with the soundtrack to Siberia's cryptocurrency gold rush. Yevgeny's brother Yuri Dramashko owns the bar and a big collection of bitcoins. But when he started mining them, he tells me, the outlook was far from sunny.
It was about 2 years ago, because in Russia was deepest crisis, and I was with no money completely. Everything was difficult.
But in a part of Russia where electricity is cheap, his investment in powerful computer servers that mine cryptocurrencies by solving algorithms soon paid off.
In about 6 or maybe 10 months, you will take back your money, and after it you will take a profit.
So did you just completely change overnight? Did you completely move to Bitcoin overnight?
Yes. I sell some property and I take money in bank as usual.
So you put all your money and you borrowed some
And I
extra
borrow money, as much money as I can.
We've driven up a small dirt road on the outskirts of Irkutsk to see an interesting looking house. It's got an L-shaped swimming pool, empty for the moment, and it's got brown walls which are actually made from shipping container material that's been recycled. And if we go inside, it's very warm, there's underfloor heating here. We're about to find out how the virtual is being turned into the practical.
Здесь сделана система теплых полов.
Local entrepreneur Dmitry Tolmachov, who wears a Che Guevara beret and drives a Hummer painted in camouflage colours, talks me through the technology he's developed and installed in the house of his friend, a fellow cryptocurrency miner. It transfers the heat given off by the computer servers to a boiler, which then heats the house for free. Back at their basic laboratory, his business partner Ilya Frolov tells me about their plans to build many more crypto houses. I ask him whether they're concerned that the authorities are talking about regulation.
They're welcome. In fact, the more they talk about the Bitcoin, that's better. They also distribute the knowledge about the Bitcoin.
But in general terms, do you think it will be better for there to be regulation, or do you prefer it as it is now?
I think as it is now, that is the best, because I don't do anything what is wrong. But that's a very philosophical question, how to regulate the things which not belongs to no one, actually. It's not possible.
Inside there are how many humans?
I think 8 or 9 patients in each. And we also have some of the patients who only had their head or brain preserved.
So in here, to be absolutely clear, there are some full bodies, but there are just some heads with brains which you believe at some point can be grafted on to another body.
Yes, you're right.
Let's be careful with the terminology. You refer to them not as dead bodies, but as patients, do you?
Yes, there is a distinction which is important for people in the United States. It's not as important for people in Russia. Many people in the US were scared by the idea that you can bring a dead person back to life. In Russia, people are really flexible about that. It's okay if you are alive at one point, then you are dead, and then you are back alive. Nobody is really spooked by that. But traditionally in cryonics, people have been talking about patients because it's really kind of a medical procedure, except that it's done outside of official medicine, and it really extends decades into the indeterminate future.
That's interesting on that point then of why there are different attitudes in Russia and America. What conclusions do you draw? How do you explain that?
In Russia, you have a very interesting combination. You have both the traditional culture of Orthodox Christianity, which is really distinct from Catholicism or Protestantism, and there was a Russian thinker, Orthodox philosopher Nikolai Fedorov, who in the 19th century dreamed about physically reviving all the dead people and conquering death. And in addition to this tradition, you also have the Soviet pro-science tradition, belief in unlimited progress. And many people in Soviet time were writing and thinking about how we can defeat death using scientific means. So this combination really opens Russian people to the idea that it's possible to live forever and it's desirable.
Aren't there a lot of people who say this is just not going to happen? You're taking money from people with absolutely no guarantee what's going to happen at the end of this.
One thing doesn't preclude the other. There is no guarantee, but there are no guarantees in many areas of human activities. So when you buy a new apartment, nobody guarantees you that the house is going to stand. And the truth is, most people and organizations in this world, including people like the Roman Pope, Elon Musk, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, British Queen, nobody has a clue about what is happening in the world, because the development of humankind is extremely complex and science and technology are extremely complex and the economy is extremely complex. So I am professionally qualified to say that nobody in this world has a clue about what's going on in tech and in science. What we do in Russian transhumanism is we are creating tools which allow us to manage development of humankind on the scale of decades and millions and hundreds of millions of people. Once we learn how to do that at a sufficient quality, then we will be running the show in terms of what happens, what is real and what is not real.
You'll be gods.
Yes, that has been the plan for the entire time. And when you ask some people who have a clue, like Craig Venter, for example, when people ask him if he feels okay playing God, he says he's not playing.
This sort of talk will scare a lot of people.
Yes, for most people, complexity is scary. For others, complexity is a turn on. The more complex the problem, the more excited you become.
Зимой это было. Шел из бара. Ну, выпивший был.
He'd been out drinking. It was winter. He was very drunk. He came out of the bar. He just fell over. Woke up the next morning in the snow, and he could feel a real pain in his legs, and he tried to walk on it for a day or so, and he had to go and get it checked out, and they said, sorry, we were going to have to amputate them.
Ампутация.
И как жизнь здесь в деревне? What's life like here in the village?
Хорошо, лучше, чем в Костроме.
Better than in Kostroma. How?
Здесь хоть, как Николай сказал, он правильно сказал, что здесь нет соблазна.
So here there are no temptations.
Там много соблазна.
Lots of
Там
temptations there.
много, да.
А что есть? Нет соблазна, а что есть здесь? Well, there aren't
Здесь-
temptations, but what is
Здесь
there?
природа красивая, и воздух чище.
So here there's nature, there's fresh air.
Тут капуста, там
Radishes.
морковь,
They've got
Дальше
cabbage there.
свекла.
They've got...
там укроп.
Outside, Dmitri's roommate Nikolai tells me what they've planted in their carefully tended vegetable patch. He's also had a tough life. His father killed his mother when Nikolai was just 2, and he was swindled out of the apartment that his grandfather left for him. With only one functioning arm, he ended up living in doorways and unable to find work, until he was offered this chance to change his location and his life.
Терять-то нечего. Хуже-то, думаю, уже не будет. Терять нечего. Чё. Попробовать можно все уже. Чё. Или
thought-
там помирать, или здесь что-то попробовать.
He said he thought there was nothing to lose. Either I'll die there or I'll come out here and try it. Ну и как получилось? How did it work out?
Я просто счастлив. Тут и природа. Сейчас дом вот свой, вот, мы с ним сложились. У меня пенсия по инвалидности. У него тоже пенсия по инвалидности.
He said he's
Вот мы
just
вместо того,
so
чтобы
happy
мы
now. He's him and his friend, who's also disabled. Together they're here. They're doing up this little house, and couldn't be happier. There's not much traffic on the Volga today as we head out in search of the Prime Minister's riverside property. Our guide is Captain Albert, a retired local merchant seaman with a friendly smile, a cabin full of yarns, and a few key English phrases.
Full speed ahead.
The smile never leaves his face as he points out the homes of politicians, but his true feelings emerge when he begins to describe them.
Изменил характер плеса. Ну да, люди, вот эти вот все депутаты, вот Госдумы, все эти...
So you say, look at all these amazing houses where you've got MPs from the Duma living in, they're built for themselves, and they still haven't managed to build a drainage system, a proper water system. where are we going now, Albert? Tell us where you're going. Куда мы сейчас едем?
Мы сейчас вверх по Волге, а здесь живет наш премьер, товарищ Медведев. Или как там?
He said,
Господин Медведев.
he said we're going to go and see where our Prime Minister, Comrade Medvedev, or is that what we call him? No, Mr. Medvedev.
Вот это ее спортзал.
That's Medvedev's sports hall. And it's где вот наверху?
Да.
Wow, it's a huge building. It's 2 stories high. Stretches a long way back, but that's apparently where he does his workouts.
А вот там, где блестит это его баня.
And just over there, he says, where there's the light is shining off the windows, that's his banya, his sauna,
На берегу Волги.
right on the banks of the River Volga. Тоже большой.
Да,
It's a
большой.
big one, yeah.
А в Плёсе до сих пор бани закрыли, до сих пор бани нет в Плёсе.
He says that they've closed all the banyas, the public banyas in Plos. So there aren't any banyas in Plos, а здесь есть.
А здесь есть, у нас наши местные начальники не могут баню построить.
He says our local leaders can't get their act together to build a banya, but look at this one here that the Prime Minister has.
И люди ездят за 20 километров на автобусе в баню.
People have to get on buses and travel 20 kilometers to go to a banya.
Если вы нахмурясь выйдете из дома, если вам...
It's only a few kilometres back to the dock, but time enough for Albert to sing a song about keeping a wide smile on your face so that a good mood never leaves you.
Шире лаптя вдруг коснется ваших глаз, и хорошее настроение не покинет больше вас.
В России.
At the moment, in Russia, in documentary industry, actually, there are more women than men. And for example, if we take just regular enrollment in my school, we have 10 boys and 25 girls. I think probably everywhere are some local Weinsteins, but for Russia that's not very vital issue. So probably because we don't have a star industry as in the United States, we don't have so strong relations between actress and producer, so it's not so important for Russia. And for example, in Russia we have a lot of jokes in the terms of Weinstein scandal in the United States, a lot of yeah.
What sort of jokes? Какие шутки?
Движение, потому что очень многие считают, что...
The joke's probably based on the fact that they shouldn't keep silent so long. They should complain at the moment when Weinstein just tried to harass.
В результате русские женщины жалеют Вайнштейна, потому что...
As a result, Russian women actually feel compassion to Weinstein because everybody starts to attack.
Когда все травят одного.
How do you feel about it?
Я отношусь к этому спокойно. Мне тоже кажется, что это уже кампания, а не реальные дела какие-то.
I don't care because I think it's campaign and not a real affair.
So, Marina is sceptical about Me Too, but what do younger people in the Russian film industry, such as festival organisers Konstantin Shavlovsky and Sasha Akhmadchina, think about the possibility of a Russian Me Too moment?
Как в киноиндустрии, так и абсолютно во всех областях российской гуманитарной жизни по-прежнему женщине...
In the film industry, and in all the other humanities, women still need to make at least twice the effort to get as high as men. It's to do with our patriarchal society that begins in kindergarten, when boys are encouraged to mess about and girls to be quiet. It's no one in particular's policy, it's just how it's always been. You won't find someone who's responsible for this. There is something starting, but it's nothing like the social movement that has quite recently sprung up in America.
Do you think there will be one?
Я думаю, что в Россия ничем в этом смысле не отличается от европейских стран.
Actually, Russia isn't any different from any European countries when it comes to this. I think there's a tectonic movement that will affect every country in one way or another. On the one hand, that's good, but on the other, any tectonic movement will result in turbulence, and anything could happen.
To bring you in, Sasha, on that, for a woman in the film industry or in any industry, you have to work twice as hard to get success. Is that something you've found?
I don't know. It's everybody need to work just hard, and personally for me, I don't feel this, but that's maybe just my example.
But in terms of the conversation around it starting in Russia, do you think it is going to start, or it is starting already?
We just start to talk about this, but it's a very small community. I think we need some more years to let it start in the country.
Look, Moscow and St. Petersburg are more or less big cities. They look more or less similar to the other big cities in the world. You see, of course, the Red Square and St. Basil Cathedral in Moscow, but very close there are the golden arches of McDonald's or KFC, everything. The Russian countryside is totally different. Russia is much bigger than just Moscow. And for example, the city of Vladimir, with its 350,000 people, is the good example of the provincial town. The town of Suzdal, with 10,000 people only, is full of the little traditional Russian log cabins, houses with the beautiful window frames. They had those decorations for hundreds and hundreds of years. In Moscow, unfortunately, you cannot see this anymore.
And what about the mentality of people here? How is it different from Moscow?
So the people in Moscow are busier. When you ask them, for example, for help, like you come to the person and say, please, may I ask a question, how to get to the Kremlin? Some of them say, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know. Some of them just ignores you. And in the countryside, they are more helpful. They serve kinder. They walk pretty slow. When they walk to their office in the morning, they walk even slower, And not many of them speak English. But anyway, if they understand what you ask them about, they would always help you.
And the Russian Orthodox Church has a very obvious place here, doesn't it?
Yes, the Russian Orthodox Church grew very fast within the last 20 years, and Russia is getting more and more religious. 30 years ago, Russia was one of the most secular countries in the world, we can understand, because the communist regime almost prohibited religion. But now it's back. It's back, and we see the beautiful golden domes everywhere. The people are getting back to their religion, and the Russian government invests much into the restoration, the reconstruction of the old cathedrals.
Right, we're here just as the World Cup is starting. How much interest is there in the World Cup? Because none of these towns and cities on the Golden Ring are hosting football matches for the World Cup. How much interest is there in the tournament?
I think Russia is not the football nation. I think more Russians would follow the ice hockey because there are many high-end players in the Continental Hockey League, which is the European equivalent of NHL, and in the National Hockey League of North America. There are Russians, and they are the high-end players like Alex Ovechkin, like Orlov, like Kuznetsov. They just recently won the Stanley Cup, and many Russians followed that. Unfortunately, there is no one football player from Russia who is the same level than that of the Russian ice hockey players.